Welcome to the Wisdom to Wealth podcast. We have another powerful guest with us today. This is the podcast where we interview the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the world so that they can share their success story from where they started to where they are now. They'll be sharing stories on how they've overcome any type of limiting beliefs, any fear. I am your host, Shamar Stark Cox, TV producer and marketing coach. My goal is to help business owners create content that sells. Just as simple as that. So if you are a business owner and you are wondering, how can I put content on social media that's going to attract my clients, that's going to convert my followers into clients, then feel free to comment the word challenge accepted or DM me challenge accepted. And I will send you details for my 5-day challenge, convert content to cash, where in just 5 days, we actually show you how to create content that attracts your audience and then is able to convert them. Today, we have the lovely Sharon Spano with us. She helps high impact leaders uncover what's holding them back so they can become better leaders for themselves, their families, and their business. In her work with CEO coaches, consultants, and online entrepreneurs, she's witnessed highly successful leaders settle for a tiny sliver of their potential because they can't put their finger on the real source of struggle. That right there is so powerful because I've witnessed this happen to so many people, including myself. And so Sharon is a transformational partner who uses the best tools of science and personal development to help high impact leaders reclaim their lives and unleash their highest potential. She's doing that through her podcast, The Other Side of Potential, and her book, The Pursuit of Time and Money, and of course, the programs that she'll be sharing with us today. Welcome to the show, Sharon. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Shamar. It is great to be here today. And I love this theme and all the wonderful work that you're doing for so many people out there who really need this level of expertise that you're offering.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it has really been a blessing. So, and what's going to bless us today is a story that you're going to share with us. So, take us on your journey from where you started to where you are now.
Well, it's a pretty long journey, so I'll try to keep it short. But I think, I like to say in many ways, it feels like I lived my life backwards because I didn't really have a plan. Like so many people, you just start out and God leads you in one direction and then another and another. And then you look back through the years and they are all interconnected, miraculously enough. Then it's not a surprise. But, I did work across the country for many years as a consultant. I was a professional speaker before there really even was the emphasis on it today. And that led me into deeper and deeper work with high impact leaders, eventually getting my PhD in human and organizational systems. And I did research around really that connection between wisdom, uh, adult development, leadership, and how do these leaders, play out their lives and their capacity for leadership in today's complex world. And then that morphed into more and more work. And a lot of the work is now trauma informed because what I started to see was individuals, even at very high levels, had some form of trauma behind them. And, we all hear about the imposter syndrome and things of that nature. So the work has continued to grow and morph. I've been very blessed to work all across North America with, again, many, many CEOs and digital marketers now are a big part of the work that I do. And it's just been a tremendous journey in many respects. And I feel really honored to serve people in the ways that I'm capable and able to do.
I love that. So very powerful. It's something you said. I want to know, how were you able to really pinpoint your purpose while you were doing this, while you were on this journey?
That is such a great question because when I was traveling all around the country, and at that time I was really literally in about 150 cities a year, and I kept running into these really successful people, Shamar, and they'd all say, well, I have a personal mission statement. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is such a, fad thing. And, what difference does that make? But what amazed me about these individuals was they were not only, doing very well, successful in their careers and in whatever capacity that showed up to be, but they also were very focused and they had a life beyond work, which I really didn't have because I was on airplanes all the time and I rearing a son who was disabled and, a husband and a household and all that kind of stuff. And so I finally sat down one day and did the hard work of crafting it out. And it changed everything because what I realized was I'm really called to really help people realize their fullest potential, which is why my show is called The Other Side of Potential. And I've done it in a variety of ways throughout my career. Back then it was speaking and consulting. Now it's more executive coaching. But I would say that when I crafted that statement, I knew, and I used the old Stephen Covey model to do so. I knew it needed to be broad enough to encompass whatever I might do in my life, but also focused enough to make sure that I had the ability to say no when I needed to say no, and not just, leap at every opportunity.
Yeah. Wow. When you said 150 cities, I was over here counting like, what? How did you have time off? That must have been super exhausting. But something you said, which was you took some time to really think this through. And I think oftentimes entrepreneurs, they're just always on the go, on the go, on the go, because there's a success level that they want to hit. And so slowing down for them may be scary because if they slow down, they won't hit this success level. But for you, you found it in yourself to really stop, think this through so you can identify this purpose so that it can actually be meaningful. Do you have anything to share about that? Entrepreneurs like really just always going, 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 and not really taking the time to stop and think about their purpose or slowing down.
Yeah, and I think we have so many forums now and mastermind groups, which we're all a part of in I think many different ways. But yeah, that is vital because you have to, especially when I'm working with digital marketers who are, they're making seven figures and they're out there killing it. But then you got to keep that hamster wheel going because it's always new content, new content. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes, and I'm kind of going through that process again for myself, is looking at what do I really want to be doing. Certainly we want to have our income goals and that's very important. But, I've seen so many people burn out because they've lost their families, their marriages and things of that nature. They've sacrificed everything to keep that machine going. And it really doesn't have to be that way. We get caught up in all the noise out there and the comparisons and again, the imposter syndrome when really I truly believe we're called to do a certain level of work. And if we're listening to the spirit and we're listening to the calling, then it's easier for us. Again, Stephen Covey used to say back in, a million years ago in the 80s, it's easier to say no if you have a bigger yes. But I believe, and part of what I help my clients define is what is that bigger yes? What is the why? And then you can start to tailor everything around that.
Yeah, that is super powerful. I love that you said that. You also said that we all have a calling, right? And being able to listen to the spirit to let us know, what that calling is. That takes like taking some time, slowing down, being present so that you can actually hear what's being shared with you. So let me ask you this question. Entrepreneurship is not easy. So how did you overcome any negative thought patterns or limiting beliefs, even if you went through imposter syndrome? Like, how did you overcome these things in order to be successful?
Well, as you know, Shamar, I lost my son, my only child, in 2008. My son was disabled, and I had been doing a lot of work through his illness. He was critical for 4 years, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically on myself. But I think when I stepped into my doctoral work, which is around the stages of human development, everything really shifted for me. And it's part of what I help my clients with today, because based on your stage of human development, there are 12 stages that we know of based on research. We have a different motivation, a different capacity, and a different way that each of us experiences time and money. That's why I wrote the book on the pursuit of time and money, because I think it's really important to understand where you are developmentally and what motivates you in the context of time and money so that you know how to make the healthiest choices. Like if you're at an expert or achiever stage, which is like the fourth or fifth stage, you're really still in that chase money, chase time mode. And where people get into trouble is and I see this every day, they start to feel like I don't want to do that anymore, but they feel bad about it in comparison to others, when really you're actually leaning into possibly another stage of development where the motivation changes. And that continues to happen as we progress. We don't always progress through the stages based on age, but often based on trauma or experiences that happen, things that happen to us. So for instance, when I lost my son, my motivation changed a lot. but
Yeah.
I was doing the work. And then I believe it's important to have people, the right people, walk alongside of you when you're going through those transition, those types of moments. And I did. I had coaches, I've had mentors, I've had therapy. I didn't need a lot of therapy after my son's passing because of the work I had done
Mm.
before that traumatic event. So I think we always have to be, I guess, in the learning mode, in the searching mode, so we're prepared for life's events.
Yeah, that to me is so powerful. And I have chills when you're talking about it right now, just having these different stages, but then also like you having one focus, but your motivation shifting after your son passed away. And even you talking about the fact that, you didn't need a lot of therapy because of the work that you were doing in advance. Can you share a little bit about some of this work that you were doing, not just with yourself, but that you also help with your clients?
Yeah, some of it was just really learning and diving deeper into personal development. I've always been motivated by that. And then, of course, when you're working with clients, you're always learning more and more so that you could give them more and more. A big piece of it, and what I now do in my own work with others, was something called constellation work. And it's based on systems, family systems was how it originated. And that was a big part of my prep work and then my grieving process as well. Because what we know about developmental movement, as we call it, is when we can make meaning out of what is happening to us, we advance. It's when we get stuck and don't understand, or we move into victimization and
Mm.
those kind of things, that we miss the growth opportunity. So for me, it was, I am a woman of faith. So I was journaling, I was reading scriptures, praying a lot through my son's illness, of course, and after. And then the constellation work was a huge part of my grieving process, which is why I eventually got 3 certifications in it, because I use it with my clients as well. It was a game changer for me personally. And then I continue, with different aspects of that, either through the stages work, or the constellation work, or the integral work. There's many aspects of what I do, but most of it is grounded in learning
Mhm.
and spiritual development, spiritual maturity.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. I think what you're sharing is so important and so powerful. And so this is what I'm thinking. You've been a business owner for a while, right? And you identified what your purpose was. There was something that you said to me during our pre-interview, which was like your purpose never changed, but the way that you execute it has changed. And I can
Right.
hear even like when you lost your son, you went into a certain type of work that helped to add to your purpose. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, after I lost my son, like, I didn't have the heart for being in and out of corporations in the same way. That was more about me than corporations, but I needed deeper work.
Yeah.
So the work started to evolve, as I stated earlier, but I also knew from a practical standpoint, I did not want to be on airplanes all the time. That I knew it wasn't going to be healthy for my marriage for me to just abandon my husband and his grief. So
Mhm.
that's when I shifted and started to do more of the individual one-on-one work. I got the integral coaching. I have 2 certifications in that, so that I could work more with the one-on-one and groups in a deeper level. And again, in doing all of that, like anything, you have to learn and go deep within yourself to learn those processes, right?
Mhm.
So I was healing as I was preparing to serve others. And it's just been an incredible journey. I mean, every moment of it has been incredible, in that what I get back from my clients, I like to think, is equal, if not even more, than I give.
Yeah, yeah, this is amazing. What I'm gathering is you don't have to sacrifice family for success. Like you were able to create this life where you have your family and your success defined by however you want it to be defined. And you can show people how they can marry the two. I think about it's Christmas season now. I love Christmas movies. I absolutely watch them all the time. And oftentimes the main characters are these really strong, powerful women who are single and they have sacrificed either romance or family just to build this success. But here you are showing us that you can actually have both and feel purposeful and be healed. That to me is so powerful. Not what stage, but I want to hear more about your faith walk with God, on how you were
Mm.
able to put these pieces together to design the life that you desire.
That is such an important question because I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier about taking time for reflection.
Mhm.
Whatever your morning ritual is, if it's prayer, reading scripture, journaling, there, in my mind, there needs to be some morning ritual where you start the day with you. And I mean, many people have different faith traditions, but whatever that is for you and I as Christian women, it is with the Lord. And the reason that is so important to me is that it's not just the doing, the acts of all of that. It is the listening, it is the relationship, it is the time to hear what God is asking of you. And we don't hear him if we're too busy talking. And so there needs to be, a meditative or contemplative component in my experience in order for you to go deeper in your walk and to really hear and know when it's time to do this versus that, when it's time to let something go. When I decided to come off the road, it was a very hard decision because I loved being out there and doing all that and speaking and whatnot. But it was time because of my family situation. So then I just redesigned how can I still help people realize their potential in a different way,
Mm.
without my having to be on airplanes. And that's kind of where I am today.
I love that. And you didn't have to do it either or. It wasn't like, okay, God, I'm going to just give up on this business and just focus on family. Or, okay, God, I'm going to give up on this family, just focus on business. I'm going to do both. I'm just going to readjust the way that I'm doing it. And it's like you're giving us permission to be okay with the transitions in our life. Sometimes the transitions happen and we get frustrated because we didn't hit a goal that we wanted to hit yet. But here you are saying, like, no, you can just readjust. The purpose doesn't change, just the way that you execute it does. Your motivation may change. I just think that's super powerful. Did you want to add anything to that before I ask you the next question?
Well, I would say too, because a lot of this depends on your partnership too. Like I could never have done any of that I did without my husband's, uh, being, I don't want to say blessing because that sounds so hierarchical, but we're a team.
Yeah.
And I've had many women when I was speaking on the road criticize, like, oh, but I don't have a husband like that. Like you're so lucky. And I'd say, well, it's not by accident that I'm lucky. It's that I have helped him understand my purpose, God's calling on my life. It's not that if I called up and said, hey, you better handle the household because I'm on the road, good
Mhm.
luck with it all. We constantly were reevaluating, and we're both entrepreneurs, so that's helpful, but we're reevaluating our roles, particularly when my son was critical because he was in the hospital for 4 years, in and out, in and out. So we were constantly making decisions like who's got a client today, who's speaking today, who's got and then you're the one at the hospital today because the other has to be here. And I think that's really important. And that only happens with communication and a deep understanding and respect for one another's role in that family system. And that's a big part of what I help people figure out with constellations is we're looking at the patterns in whatever system you're in and trying to make sense of those patterns because the system never lies.
This is so powerful. I mean, first of all, let me just share this. You have a peace that just comes off of you. This peace, it just passes through the video, and I love it. It's a nice, peaceful energy. Another thing, as you talked about partnership with your husband, it wasn't a well, you better do this because I'm doing this. You said you helped him to understand your purpose. Ooh, that type of partnership is so powerful. I see families or husbands and wives fighting because of this lack of communication of helping to understand purpose. And if you both are men and women of God, right, then there becomes some type of submission to God where God also helps the understanding
Mhm.
as well. Oh, I just think that's so powerful. Okay, so you brought back up your clients. You talked about this constellation system. Let's talk about three key points that you share with your clients in order to help them to be successful and design this life that they desire.
I think if well, there's so much, but I think the first thing I always want to get across to them is that the stages are real because most people don't know about the stages of human development. We talk about personality and we talk about all these other things, but the stages being only 12 of them, it's important to know if you don't have to know the stages. All I want you to know is if you're feeling stuck,
Mhm.
you're at a stage where you're moving into another realm, if you will. And the way I think about that is kind of like if anyone can remember going from middle school to high school. like you're awkward. I remember my son wanted to play with his trucks when he was going from elementary, but he wanted tattoos when he was going into middle school. It's a very confusing time. Well, as adults, we have those same kinds of things. We used to call it the middle age crisis, but often we're leaning into another stage. So all I want you to know is if you're feeling like something's not working anymore, you're not sure what you're doing, it's worthy of exploration to see what is really going on here. I'm not wrong. I'm not bad. I'm not losing my mind. I'm just growing up into something else. I'm waking up into a new identity, possibly. And I may
When you,
need some help along the way.
that part, I was going to bring that up. Like, it's okay to get help when you're in transition. You don't have to try to figure it out on your own. You said three things. I'm not wrong. I'm not bad. I forgot what the third one was. But that is super important because when we're going through transition, we're unstable. Things were
Right.
working before, all of a sudden it's not working. Could you also go through this transition period even when you haven't hit the goals that you set to hit?
Yeah, yeah, because a lot of times our goals are based on what other people expect of us, right? I've worked with so many people who have degrees because their mother or father wanted them to have that degree and they hate that industry or whatever. So yeah, because we got to redefine the goals. And it's kind of the old Maslow's hierarchy thing. In the beginning we're all just in survival. I was at dinner last night. We were all joking about our first houses and what it took and all the kinds of why the other couple said we only had one car. I used to have to drive him to work. And, we go through those early stages of the motivation is survival.
Yeah.
And then it gets maybe to be about an accumulation of wealth and cars and, more, nicer clothes, whatever it is, it's changing. But as you get into the later stages, it's really more about service to humanity
Yeah.
and wanting to make a difference in the planet and, things that are bigger. And that can be very confusing because it feels like I'm letting go of something if I no longer care about some of those other things. But it's a non-dual perspective at the same time because it's not, again, an either or. I can do both.
Yes.
I can
Oh,
drive a nice car and still help humanity.
come on. It's
Yeah,
the both. I have this saying with my ministry and with my friends where we say, we serve the God of the both. We can
right.
have both, and you don't have to settle for one. And I think oftentimes we're living this life where you have to settle, right? And you see it even with some of your high impact leaders that they're settling and they're not too happy in that settling. But then here you are showing them how they can have both and by just implementing this system, taking some time for themselves, really being able to listen to what it is that they desire. And so I want to read some of these comments that are in the chat right now. Renaya says, "Oh my, so good about transitioning in the midst of goals. Whose goals? Like really thinking about who set this goal. Was it me? Was it society? Was my family?" That's super important. And Akosia says, "I needed this today." So I absolutely, absolutely powerful. So let me ask you this question. I'm going to ask you two questions, but let me ask you this first one. For those who are listening and they're inspired by what you're sharing today, how can they work with you?
Well, we have two main entry points at this. One is my one-on-one Potential Unleashed intensive, which is 12 weeks, and it literally is one-on-one. And all of this is on my website if you go under workshops and whatnot. And then the other is something we just launched called the Leader's Edge, which is 6 weeks. And that one is primarily for up and coming leaders. I just did a 6-week group we completed a week ago. And most of those were guys coming up into leadership roles and for whatever reason don't have the confidence or believe that they can step in, or they don't even see themselves as high impact leaders. And so I want to have an opportunity for us to do that introductory work with them. And it was really deep. I had 6 really energetic young men. It was a privilege, and they're going through transitions. 2 were getting married. One of them just had a baby. So, it was very cool. We had some women too, but it was a wonderful experience. So we'll continue to do those. For that one, I have a wait list right now because we won't do it again until the winter.
Love it. So I dropped the two links in the chat so people can get access to it. I put the Sharon's Assertive Edge Masterclass, and then we also have Sharon's Waitlist for Potential Unleashed Masterclass, so you can get access to it. So now, before we wrap up, let me ask you this question: what is the one decision that you've made that really set your business in its next level?
I think it was there's so many, but the decision to know that what I know is enough.
Mm.
Because I was one, as I know many of us high achievers are, that kept thinking, I need to know more. I need one more class, one more degree, one more master class, one more, mastermind group. And it's taken me a long while to go, no, no, you have enough knowledge and information to serve well. And for some reason, when I finally believed that, everything else opened up.
Ooh, that one right there hit a lot of hearts. And I had to put it on the screen. Renaya says, "You're speaking to me, Sharon."
That's a
There,
tough one. Yeah, it's a
that's a
tough one.
tough
And
one.
when you finally it clicks, you go like, "What? Why how could I not? Everyone else was saying it. Why didn't I hear it?" But you can't hear it until you hear it.
That part.
And yeah,
That's so good. I want to share a quick story. I feel like for me, I didn't hit the financial goal that I wanted to hit this year. The goal was to scale to a certain number. We didn't hit it yet. Friday, I found myself like, I think I need to do this. I spoke to one person and she said she implemented this into her business and it helped her. So I'm like, I think I need to do this. I need to find a coach who does this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I just find myself like thinking of all the things I got to do so I can hit this number. And then I stopped myself and I said, actually, God, I'm going to wait for you to give me the next step.
oh, yes, I love that.
I
Yeah,
said, let me just wait for you to give me the next step. That night, I went to dinner with my girlfriends, and one of them said, hey, why don't you start doing this? Now, what she told me brought a lot of peace and
yeah,
had nothing to do with my business. You want to know what she said to me?
absolutely.
She said, why don't you start dating?
Oh my God.
What does that have to do with me scaling my business to the next level? But when she said it, I knew God was saying, this
Right.
is what you need to be focused on next, which was so crazy because
Yeah,
I'm thinking he's going to tell me, join this program, do this so that you can scale. But it was, why don't you start dating? And that's what happens when we slow down and let
yeah,
God tell us, because although we have the goals that we want to hit, there's still a purpose that we are living, and God is still directing us. For those of us who are Christians, God is still directing us. And so if we get distracted by our goals, by what we desire, and we don't slow down enough for God to just tell us what to do, then we find ourselves running around. So really resting in this, the decision to know that I know enough. Oh,
well, and if you had not asked for that morning or whatever day it was, you would have missed that it came through her, because God uses his people to direct us. And you wouldn't have made that connection. I can almost guarantee you that.
you're absolutely right. I would have looked at her like, girl, bye, I got to hit this goal. And it came to me. I made a decision, let's say around 4 o'clock, and the next step came at like 8 o'clock in the evening. So I knew that that was God speaking in that moment. So, oh, this has been a blessing, Sharon. You
Same
have
for me.
truly blessed us.
Thank you so much. I so enjoy your energy. And again, the work that you're doing is quite amazing. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show with you today.
Thank you. You have truly blessed us. Your story is resonating with us. You are already transforming those who are watching live. So I know those who are going to watch the replay are going to fall in love with what it is that you were sharing, your story, your systems. If anyone is here, you want to get access to Sharon's programs, all you have to do is click the links that were shared in the chat. It will also be shared in the caption so that you can copy and paste it later. Thank you all for tuning in with us for another episode of Wisdom to Wealth. Everything that was shared today, find one piece, grab that one wisdom, sow it. And when I mean sow it, I mean put it into action, meditate on it, read on it, study it, learn it, right? Because it is the wisdom that we plant that actually becomes the wealth that we reap. So you all have a wonderful day. Bye.